And this is the thing that rang a bell with the way-seeking mind, and that was the beginning. How do you become one with this entity, this creator God? When I did find this book, my wife Tanya had it on her bookshelf, I looked at this picture on Man's Eternal Quest, and I thought, wow, there's no doubt about it. This guy is not depressed, unhappy, certainly not angry, not discontented. He looks like he's just in complete love with somebody or something. He claimed there that he had found his way through his teachers to make this union in yoga, which means yoke, or union like the yoke that holds the two oxes' heads together. In this yoke, or this union, Yogananda had a direct connection to God, and through him and his ways and means, you also could possibly have this connection if you took him as your guide, your teacher, your guru. So I did this, and I took the lessons. I think I started those lessons about 20 years ago, 20 years ago. And that was kind of the second stage. It wasn't that the Native American spirituality had completely left my life, but I did see that I really didn't have a teacher there, and I didn't have this clearly defined set of rules and regulations. Also, culturally, I didn't know if it was really acceptable to take on something like this. It seems like it might be demeaning and disrespectful to a cultural group that's already had enough shit happen to them. They don't need to have another white guy stealing their religion, though my heart was pure and true, and still remains so in that aspect, with a high amount of respect and also love for the very little amount that I do know about some of these sacred beliefs. I started to take these lessons because Yogananda kept mentioning in his books, if you take my lessons, I'm going to teach you how to meditate, and you're going to be at one with God if you follow these rules. So I signed up for these lessons, and they're paid for them. They're a very minimal amount from the Self-Realization Fellowship in California. Every month I would get something, and there would be usually a story there, like maybe from one of his talks, but there would also be some instruction on how to prepare yourself to begin to become a daily meditator. In earnest, I really thought, this guy's got the answers, so I'm going to do it. I studied the lessons. I learned meditation through Self-Realization Fellowship. I completed all of the lessons. I did not do what is called the Kriya Bond, where you get the Kriya Yoga, which is supposed to be the super breathing yoga and make this connection with God. I had felt that I had already made quite a connection there. Things that I did learn in taking the whole course without becoming a Kriya Bond. Things there that to me were red flags. There being, me believing that there was a lot of dogma to this, that I had to take him on as my guru. He expected that in the lessons they expect that you kind of abstain from sex except for the purpose of making babies, that you be drug and alcohol free, that you don't smoke cigarettes, that you don't eat meat. And at this time I did all of those things. I was definitely procreating with my wife, and I was drinking beer, I was getting high when I could, and I was eating meat. I didn't want to be a monastic. I don't do things half-assed. I'm going to do it all the way. I'm going to do it 100%. If I'm going to say, yes, I want to be a Kriya Bond and be initiated into this, yes, then I can do all of these things that you're asking of me. Yes, I'm practicing 2 hours a day. Yes, I have mastered this breathing technique, etc., without going into detail. So, I dropped that. I dropped that in feeling this was too dogmatic, but I still took away one of the meditation techniques that he shares in these lessons. Now, in the lessons, just like the movie Fight Club, it says you promise never to talk about the exact way that any of these methods are discussed in the lessons. If you want to know about the lessons in that kind of detail, you can sign up and get them in the mail. Or agreement that I made with Yogananda, I'm not going to share any of that, but it is a breathing technique that allowed me to be able to in meditation have what could be best described as a focused, still, calm, and quiet mind and body. So I was able to sit, and then and there were moments where I would have these feelings that what are called samadhi. It's kind of like a death. He even talks about it being dying daily. And feeling in this blissful state, the body and the mind dropping away, but there still being this awareness, this consciousness, aware of itself and the feeling and the connection to something intelligent, some sort of consciousness. And the consciousness, in a way, could be explained as something warm and fuzzy, something nice, something good, an intelligence, caring, loving, nurturing energy. And that was experienced during these meditations that I had and was doing quite often. Just getting distracted by the cats. That was a good feeling. I loved it, but I couldn't sustain it, and I couldn't keep it all the time. And when I wasn't, deeply ingrained in the actual practice itself of meditation, which when you did it right took about an hour, and I was doing that twice a day, morning and night, though the feeling was incredible and wonderful and I never wanted it to end, there was the fact that it did end. And I would come out of the trance, the experience, the connection, if you will. So, long story short, it felt really good, but it wouldn't last. And I thought, wow, I really have to work hard to get to this state. And it seems contrived, constructed, rendered. So I was questioning that particular form. And it was during this time that we ended up having to close our business down. And when we did, we were living in this really wonderful off-grid place. Bad thing was it was so far away from town that without a car, you were pretty much trapped in the middle of nowhere at about 9,000 feet, surrounded by 5 feet of snow. Well, that's what happened. Tanya and I are stuck up there in this off-grid cabin in a place called Lama, New Mexico, and car breaks down, and it sits at the repair shop. Finally, my parents agreed to help us get it fixed. Otherwise, we would have never gotten out of there in any other way. During this time, my friend Joel came to visit, and thankfully he came there because he helped us with food and water and transportation, though we did get snowed in a couple of times. Well, it was during this time that Joel was visiting that when I was sitting in meditation, and I was doing that quite often, I was really praying. And I don't do that anymore, but at the time I did. I was praying for an answer. What do I do next to help my family? What do I do to get us out of this mess that we're in? Here we are stuck in this cabin in the middle of nowhere, living off rice and beans. We got 3 dogs and a rat. The rat is sick, and we got no way out. We have no money, no savings, no credit cards, nothing. So it was during this time when I was reading a lot. The Upanishads was one thing I was reading. The Tao was another thing. Even looking into the Bible. I was looking everywhere for answers, but mostly they were older books. And also a little Vernon Howard mixed in here and there. And I don't know what else I was reading at the time. Krishnamurti was another thing I was reading. And it was the Krishnamurti, actually, that the book, The Flight of the Eagle, that he was saying meditation is bullshit. Drop it. It's not worth it. It's crazy. And then I read his story, that he was raised up in this community meant to be their next leader. And the first meeting he ever held, he said, I'm going to dissolve this group, and I'm not your leader. That's nonsense. So is meditation, so is all this. Wow, and it just blew my mind. I'm like, all this meditation I'm doing is for nothing. It's never going to help. I'm up here and I'm really looking for an answer from God or the universe or the source, whatever you want to call it. Somebody please help. So it was during this time that I heard On the television, which was really weird because we're off the grid, we have golf cart batteries powering the place. We never ran the power during the day. We saved it for nighttime, and television was a treat. We would turn it on every once in a while and watch it. And we had a dish feed, and we couldn't pay this bill, but for some reason it was still on. And I don't know if I was flipping channels or Tanya, but I heard we practiced this mindful walk, and I looked up and I saw this bunch of people in a park somewhere, and they were walking, several, maybe 20 yards or 10 yards behind this monk, this guy that looked like a monk, shaved head, very thin, in robes. And I just looked at him and the way he was walking, and I've never seen anybody walk like that before except David Carradine on the Kung Fu TV show. Anyway, that's another story too.